Appreciate your time.
Yeah, good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Alex, I'd love to just start with a high level of your story. Maybe couple of a minute or two on.
Sure. It's not that exciting. People always ask me like these questions, how to get promoted, how to climb the corporate ladder. I'm like, I don't know. I just started a company with some friends. So I've been at Cardinal Group for most of my career. Started briefly in the military, which was an awesome lesson in leadership and organizational behavior. Got my MBA along the way, but my career has largely been just building Cardinal Group and trying to innovate and disrupt and do some fun things. And so it's gone pretty fast, which is crazy. I'm sure you felt the same way, where all of a sudden what felt like a 5 year journey is now, we've been doing this 18, almost 20 years. So yeah, and so I'm based in Denver, grew up in Ohio, and the rest is just details. So
Fantastic. That's a fantastic story. Thanks, Alex. So diving into data, like what's your enduring memory of high school math?
it's funny you put that question on the list, because I was always a math nerd, and now my big joy is seeing that my kids are as well, just like total math geeks doing their workbooks, and we do math facts at the dinner table and those kind of fun things. But yeah, I remember I was a bit of like a underperformer, kind of the classic, smart enough to get it done, but never really exerting effort. And so my math teacher, Mr. Peters at Alter High School in Dayton, Ohio, if he ever hears this, but he gave out the golden pencil for the highest grade on a test, and and he was always challenging me, and I'd always told him like I could get that anytime I wanted, just so you know, and just kind of like talking a little trash back and forth. But so finally, one time I told him, all right, this is the time I'm going to exert myself. And I did win the golden pencil, and it was a big ordeal for me. But always loved math, calculus, you name it, kind of going through, continued that through college. And so was a finance major, did a lot of accounting. But to me, math's always been one of the love languages. So
That's good. That's good. Well done, Mr. Peters. uh, Great. And so moving on, like from that math journey, like what or where did you build your data muscle?
I think it's like still like beach bod flabby though right now. Like it's not great. And I think we're all on this journey of like building that muscle. I think that we had recognized at Cardinal years ago, we said, hey, it's going to be in kind of this brief moment of competitive advantage, but then we'll become table stakes, and kind of having this idea of like there's so much disparate data. You could kind of see the writing on the wall in terms of where things were going. And real estate's always slow. Data, marketing, you name it. I feel like we're always kind of late to the party. But specifically to data, it was like the world of Excel. It had just dominated. It was like everyone was just fine as long as you knew Excel. Everyone on the resume, Excel, like Excel proficient. That was it. And I think we just kind of got trapped in that was good enough. Load in the pro forma, print out your Yardi reports, and building out our own internal BI, because we thought, having control of that was going to be a big part. Kind of control the data, control your destiny. And so started working out those muscles. I don't know, still feel a little flimsy, but that's about maybe 6 or 7 years ago. We've just been nonstop on that journey, building out our internal team, building out our internal BI. And so yep, we're still working. We're still working every day to continue to improve. And I think the companies that I think are going to be successful are on that same journey.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. And on that note, like tell me about a time when data saved your ass.
Well, certainly I think on the management side of our business, if you look at just our role responsibility, our contractual responsibility to owners of real estate, and maybe specific to this example in student housing, I mean, a lot of what we're doing is predicting the future. And I think for a long time, data was just analytical, and then we had to get into predictive. And right now, what we're doing, and obviously a big conversation in the industry right now in terms of what data can be shared and used, but we're constantly coming up with rate recommendation, leasing curves, telling our clients and owners this is what the market's going to do. And so I think being able to constantly look at the data around rates, around velocity, really gives us a competitive advantage. And that's probably where scale is starting to show up more and more in our industry, where having access to that organic data and being able to have an accurate predictive picture of the market allows us to maximize rent. And so I don't know if there's been one case where there was like this gotcha moment and the data saved our butt, but certainly it's allowed us to continue to grow and capture disproportionate market share. And if you look at the growth of Cardinal Group in student housing, in other parts of the real estate world, like I think it's because of our commitment to data. So
yeah, no, thanks for that answer. And on the flip side, like, has there been a time where data inspired you? You saw a piece of it or something that truly got you to that plane?
yeah, I mean, I think one of our favorite data sources is around the data we collect around our people. And so whether that's survey data, whether that's, there's a number of things that we're constantly collecting internally and externally. But I mean, to get the data on people, they're proud to work at Cardinal Group. They would refer Cardinal Group to a friend. They're constantly giving feedback, and we're taking that and adjusting internally on, if only 60% of team members say they have the tools they need to be successful, we're like, whoa, okay, like, got to do something with that. And so I think we're constantly using data for our people, our training, our hiring techniques, the culture side. Are we actually delivering on the mission and values of the business? And so I think that once we really started collecting data around the people and culture, it was really inspiring and challenging for us to be able to adjust accordingly. And so I don't think there's a single part of the business in which you have to have data you can't ignore, going back to the rules of kind of that good to great principle. But yeah, I've been really inspired just listening to the data we collect from our team members on their experience and what it means for them to work at Cardinal.
Got it. Thank you. And winding back to your time in, the U.S. Marine Corps, and then building a business, you must have seen situations where you don't have perfect data, and you have to make decisions based on imperfect data. Now, using that framework, like, do you have advice for other CEOs on, how to make decisions with data and without data?
Well, certainly experience is a great teacher, and so I hate to say trust your gut, because that's kind of the opposite of a data-driven platform. But there's always this balance of especially with strategy. Like, strategy is unproven. You have to kind of predict the future a little bit and make a thesis and work towards it. And so one of the things that have, I think, helped us is we've always had this kind of bias for action, and almost this kind of 80-20 rule. Like, if you wait for 100% of clarity, you've waited too long. And so, that 20% is that discomfort. You have business plans, you have data, you have experience. And when you have 80% clarity, that's probably the time to really start moving in the right direction. If you wait for 100%, groups like us have already started moving, and moving quicker. And so we use a lot of terminology around race. It does feel like we're all racing to the future. And that's really, something that has been a challenge internally, of like balancing speed versus, certainty, and that's where the data comes in. Data gives you that certainty, and so we really focus on when you have that 80% clarity. Now's the time to get moving.
Interesting. That's a good model. And on that note, if I'm a CEO in real estate who probably doesn't use much data, and I'm trying to figure out this whole data thing, like, do you have any advice for me or people like me?
It's kind of one of those, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So, to the extent you feel like you're behind the curve or you've waited too long, then you got to just get moving. You got to get moving quicker. And so there are some off the shelf tools that are great. And I would say probably start there.
So give me an idea of a data set or a type of data set you think is highly overrated. Everyone talks about a lot, but in your opinion and experience is overrated.
It's a really good question. I think that I think when we first started down the data journey, we did what everyone warned you not to do, which is there's kind of this less is more, and we went with like way more is more. And so every like dashboard we had like 40 cards on it, or 40 graphs, and it all looks cool. And I think when you do screenshots, it's like, whoa, look at all this data. But I think that what you found was, 50% of that was just junk. It was more, it told you something, but something that it didn't answer a question. And so I think we kind of learned the hard way of just because you have 40 graphs and cards on the dashboard doesn't actually mean you're getting more data or more, actionable data. And so, we found a lot of times in which no behaviors were changing just because we had some card or data source or something like that. And so I think we were learning the hard way of there was kind of a so what data set of like, who cares? Like, what is that actually doing? What behaviors are we changing? And so learning the hard way, we just kept, kind of going through each data set and asking the hard questions of like, why are we spending so much time, money, training, because you have to train people on all of these things to gather this data and then not do anything with it. And so I think really being able to laser in on more actionable data sets of like, what are the 5 or 6 questions you're really trying to answer, specific to from on-site to regional management to national level. And then really empower, I think this kind of less is more mindset will really empower groups. And we did not start that way, but I've learned over time, as you said, kind of building that muscle, flexing that muscle of like, what's the really potent data that you need to make really good decisions and quick decisions. So
no, it's fantastic. It's a brilliant framework, and it's one a lot of other leaders are reticent to accept, right? That less is more, and you got to really nail down the questions you're trying to answer. So it's fantastic. Thanks for bringing it up. Anything else you wanted to share with folks about data, your data journey, or what not to do?
I feel like we're on a journey right now with so much national conversation on what can be shared, what's organic, what's easily available, publicly available. I mean, there's a lot of conversation there, and specific to like what is data's role in the industry in terms of setting rate and setting, which is, if you actually stack rank the important things in real estate, certainly rental rate has to be, 1 or 1A, like right at the top there. And so I think we all felt like we were climbing this data mountain a little bit, building platforms, finding, data sources that we could use for operations, and some of that organic, some of that internal, some of that, widely available on the internet, and then some of that, through aggregate data sources, no different than what you guys, provide to the industry, which is great. And now there seems to be this like cloudy, murky future of like, what's going to happen here? And why is our industry I don't want to say signaled out, but maybe unique in the sense of how we collect competitor information in order to make pricing decisions, which seems to be what everyone does in every business for every product. But seems to maybe be a unique conversation in real estate and specific to housing. So, I think that's the real conversation that a lot of leaders are in right now is what are we going to do here, and what's legal risk, what's political risk. So it's a really interesting time, and I think operators and owners are in the conversation, and then certainly you're in the conversation as well, in groups like yours that are responsible for this data collection and distribution. So whatever part of the journey people are on in terms of internal BI and certainly now AI, which is a big part of our internal conversation, um, it's you can't ignore it. There's no getting around it, and I think leaders have to lean in, have to engage, and as an industry and as individual companies, we got to figure this out.
Yeah, yeah. And thanks, Alex. I really appreciate you bringing it up and starting the conversation. It's a very valid conversation to have, and it's fundamental to the space. So I'm glad you're part of the debate. Fantastic. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Alex. It was a pleasure to have you. Your not just the fact that you built a company at scale, like 2,500, associates, but also, you're candid about what data can do and not do. Uh, so I hope people take away a lot from this conversation. Thanks again.
Thank you. Yeah, and always nice to see you, and congrats on your success as well. And thanks for having me, and look forward to staying in touch.
Thanks, Alex.